How are those Clemson Tigers doing in recruiting? Believe they're ranked inside the top 15 currently. But three four-star recruits have their eyes on the program. I'm going to discuss all three next on the Locked On Clemson podcast.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Clemson family? Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast, your daily podcast covering your Clemson Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout over with the Draft Network and the co-host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. And guys, we are talking recruiting today. We're going to get into some four-stars. There's three four-star recruits that have been offered, have their eyes set on those Clemson Tigers, guys. Offensive line, defensive end, and an in-state four-star wide receiver that Clemson might want to go ahead and do everything they can to lock him in, because he's very, he's being highly touted basically, and guys and other teams are pursuing him. So let's tap into it. Let's talk offensive line, guys. We have four-star offensive linemen per Rivals, Ronan O'Connell, 6'5", 275. And, and I watched a little bit of this young man. I saw a guy that's a good mover. You talking about being athletic to pull, plays mostly, I saw him a lot at left tackle, and being able to pull to the opposite side of the hash, opposite side of formation in the run game, in the power game, and lead the running back to daylight. When I look at him, I see a young man that has the frame to bulk up once he gets into a college weight program. So you're talking about going from 275 to 305, maybe 310, 315, but you want to keep him in a range where, yes, he adds on and continues to build on that functional strength, but you want to make sure that he still has the movement skills and the athleticism to be able to vertical set and pass protection, diagonal set, things of that nature, keep the lateral agility, but also being that puller, right? So he already has the height on his side at 6'5". Like I said, you can bulk him up a little bit. And the great thing about it, he has Clemson right now. Clemson's offered him, and he has Clemson in the top 3. And at the end of the day, that's a big move, and that's a big thing for this program, because it doesn't really matter who's at quarterback if you can't protect him. So I like what I've seen from this young man, just kind of watching over his tape. Like I said, Rivals has him as a 4-star. I think 24/7 Sports has him as a 3-star interior offensive lineman. So it shows some kind of versatility between the recruiting sites, right? So while Rivals look at him and has him rated as an offensive tackle, 24/7 Sports says, you know what? We think he's a guard or interior offensive lineman, and if he is an interior offensive lineman, he's a 3-star. So for Clemson, it just really depends. I mean, if he's a 4-star tackle, I'd rather have him at tackle if we're being completely honest. But, like I said, being in the mix of, I think Tuesday he dropped his top 3, and Clemson being in that mix, that, like I said, at the end of the day, that's important. You want to be able to set yourself up where you can continue to build the trenches. The trenches is the foundation of every football team, every successful football team. If you can't protect, if you can't run the football on the offensive side of the ball, if you can't stop the run, if you can't get after the passer on the defensive side of the football in the trenches, your team is going to lack success. It's just, especially in college football, right? We see it in the skill positions all over the place in college football. Guys aren't just going and sitting behind guys at Alabama for 3-4 years and playing 1 year. No, they'll go play at New Mexico State. They'll go play at Washington or Washington State. They'll go play at Iowa or Wisconsin offensively. It doesn't matter anymore. But what puts teams in position to continue to be as successful or competitive against the Blue Bloods like a Clemson is that you got to be able to win in the trenches. And Clemson continually adding to the trench, to their trenches will be important. So this is a name that you got to keep your eyes on, guys. Ronan O'Connell, like I said, 6'5", 275, good mover, athletic guy. He plays with power, right? And what I love about him, as well as a puller, this is the former running back in me. I see a guy that's a hunter. He's hunting down a defender to pancake and to knock out of the way and throw him out the club, right? That's what he's looking for, and you want that in the offensive line, to have that type of temperament. You know what I mean? To help your running back and whoever is carrying the ball, if it's QB run game, jet sweeps, whatever, screen game, tunnel screens, smoke screens, all the different things of that nature, halfback screens. You want a guy that not only is he athletic enough to get in space, but he wants to hunt down defenders and just put somebody on their back. Just go out there and make a pancake reel. So, guys, listen. Like I said, Ronan O'Connell is a name to keep an eye on because, like I said, 4-star offensive tackle, and you want to make sure that you can protect the blind side of whoever's back there at quarterback. But coming up next, 4-star defensive end that has a lot of tools, size that we should know. Coming up next. Guys, it's not easy to shop for shorts and pants that fit well, they're comfortable, and versatile. It's very hard to find one style that is like that. But I found them, and it's Birddogs. I can tell you from personal experience, they fit well, and they fit so well. They make you they look good on you. They make you look better. You feel great while you're wearing them, and you feel like you look good. They're comfortable. The stretchy fabric makes your legs feel great as well as look great. And compared to some of the other shorts and pants I have, these are much more comfortable in terms of versatility. I promise you, they give me the freedom to go a variety of places without having to change clothes. You talking about wearing a pair of shorts or pants to the golf course, right? To a business meeting, on a date with my wife, or just hanging out with our friends. I don't have to change because it brings that versatility. And I appreciate Birddog for that. So I encourage you to go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. And when you enter the promo code LockedOnCollege, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every single order. Dominic Nichols, defensive end out of the state of Maryland, 6'6", 245 pounds, has been offered by Clemson, but this young man has close to 40 offers right now, with more in the last month from Georgia, North Carolina State, Indiana, Florida State, Syracuse. Some of the teams you just heard are in the ACC. But not only that, Wisconsin, he's going to visit with Wisconsin, Michigan, Kentucky, and next month. And 24/7, they have this whole crystal ball prediction thing where they predicted he's going to go to Michigan. But again, what we were talking about is just from a recruiting standpoint, what he offers and why Clemson should be interested and really invested in, which they have offered this young man. He looks the part, guys. 6'6", 240, 245. This is a young man that's kind of versatile in terms of his rush process. He could stand him up as a stand-up defensive end or edge rusher. He puts his hand in the dirt in 3-point, 4-point stances. And I believe this is a young man, similar to O'Connell, which I talked about in the first segment, has the frame. Long arms, he's a tall, long body, but you can add muscle in a college weight room and weight program. I think you can bulk him up to 255, potentially 260. It just really depends on the status of where you want to play him, right? The position. If you want him to be a stand-up edge, maybe don't bulk him up to 260, 265. But if you want him as a four-man front defensive end, which Clemson, runs more of a four-man defensive line. If you want him to be hand in the dirt, you can bulk him up to 265, potentially 270, as long as it keeps the quickness and athleticism he has. And I'm gonna tell you what's really impressive about this young man. I love the way that he rushes the passer, because typically he's not a super athlete, right? From what I've seen on tape, his burst isn't. He's not Myles Garrett or Von Miller in terms of that first step quickness and being just that super explosive edge rusher in terms of that first step. But you see a guy that's going to be a power rusher, but he's already got the technical aspect down. Double hand swipes, being able to clear the outside shoulder. He uses that double hand swipe inside and out. He does a good job rushing and threatening the outside shoulder to open up the inside pass so he can counter back inside. And that just kind of shows me this young man he takes the game serious, because you don't see a lot of high schoolers that have that type of rush process and repertoire down this early in life. And it's something that a lot of, because heck, I'm telling you now, the 2023 NFL draft class of edge rushers didn't have that type of process down for the most part. It was a lot of guys that went off of just pure athleticism. So, when looking at this young man, like I said, being able to rush from his hand in the dirt, having those inside counters and those moves where, at the end of the day, one thing that Clemson has done is they continue to find trench players, man. And they've done a good job of that over the years, right? Vic Beasley, Miles Murphy, KJ Henry. We got Xavier Thomas coming back healthy this season. Like, this is something that they've done for a long time. Having guys that have and they have a look typically, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", somewhere in there, 250 on up that fits that model, that mold of the body type that they look for to play that base defensive end. And like I said, if you bulk him up, maybe he could play a strong side end where he's right up on the same side as the tight ends and really handle himself in the run game. Like I said, and what I like by him is his eye discipline, especially all the RPO, the read option, all the movement stuff with the quarterback. This young man, they tried to leave him on block a few times and he didn't take the bait, and he identified where the ball was, located it, and tracked the ball carrier down, which was either the running back or the quarterback. So again, yes, 24/7 Sports is predicting that he goes to Michigan. But if I'm Clemson, I kind of full court press this young man and try to do my best to get him in there. I know they offered him, but I would love to get him in there, especially with other teams like a Georgia and Kirby Smart them on the trail. You want to get this type of young man in your facility and get him on the roster because he's super talented, has all the physical tools, traits, and he has the look. And you want to go ahead, not just offer, but secure and get him to commit. But guys, we got one more 4-star to tap into, wide receiver, and he's in the home state. We'll discuss it next. There was some news with wide receiver out of Aiken, 4-star, Braylon Staley. The young man is listed at 6 foot, 180 pounds. He moved up 120 spots to 120 overall for 24/7 Sports. So they got him listed as the number 22nd ranked wide receiver, and he's the number 2 ranked in South Carolina for them. He's a 4-star. Rivals has him as a 3-star. They have him as the 71st overall wide receiver, number 6 in South Carolina. ESPN is high on the young man in terms of his ranking at a 4-star rating, 218th overall recruit. He's a top 30 wide receiver for them. He ranks at 29 and number 4 in South Carolina, and just having that movement, for this young man is big, right? And his top schools right now is Clemson and North Carolina. But that's not all that has offered this young man. Georgia has offered him. Appalachian State has offered him. Florida, Auburn, even Alabama has come through with, Boston College, Cincinnati, Duke, Coastal Carolina. He's Georgia Tech, Miami, NC State, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. There's teams in this conference that view this young man as a player and as a baller. And when I turned on the tape and watching myself, being a sought-after recruit for all these big-time programs, I said, okay, what is it about this young man's game? He plays on the outside. Like I say, he's not the biggest. He's not 6'2", 6'3", 6 foot, 180. But he can win at all 3 levels of the defense. Tracks the football well down the field, attacks the ball at the highest point, has body control. He has a confident and it's a confident mindset in terms of going up and getting the football at its highest point, right? You think about those 50-50 balls. It's rare that you see guys that aren't the 6'4", 6'5" receivers that quarterbacks and offenses are like, yeah, in the low, high reds, we're going to throw fades to you, right? The fade route to throw it in the end zone and give that guy that 50-50 ball. But this is a young man that has great ball skills, right? Like there's a couple throws where he mosses 2 defenders, a corner and a safety. There's one that's thrown, it was kind of an inaccurate pass where he runs a fade, the ball's thrown more so inside. He adjusts his pass and makes a diving catch in the back of the end zone, man. So you love the effort. He's just a stud, a baller. He's a big play threat from anywhere as well. So not only is he he's a solid route runner right now. I think there's so much more room for him to grow in terms of being a route salesman, being able to sell routes and release packages, things like that he can absolutely continue to develop with at the next level. But being that threat from anywhere, I love him as a manufactured touch guy, a yak threat. They give him bubble screens, tunnel screens, wide receiver screens, quick hitches, and allow him to make plays. This is a guy that you also can see some return ability in his game as well. And for Clemson, which we talked about it in the last segment, guys, they have a type in terms of defensive end. They like big, tall, long arm guys. Well, that's kind of been the way that they've had it at wide receiver, right? You think about Justin Ross, another big body, T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins. What's another Joseph Nata? All these these big body receivers that are great in terms of the catch point, right? Being able to go up and get the football and moss guys and play basketball, right? Bunch of power forwards, but that, yes, it worked with Trevor Lawrence and everything, but you don't want to have, I always say this, in terms of building your wide receiver room, you want to build it like a basketball team, guys. And what I mean by that is Shaq is one of the greatest centers of all time, but you can't win with 5 Shaqs on the field. Nikola Jokic is the best center in basketball in the NBA right now. You're not going to win with 5 of those, but you're also not going to win with 5, Steph Curry's, 5 Damian Lillard's, 5 Kevin Durant's. Like, you're just not going to win with 5 of the same thing. So you want to have a mixture. You want to have your point guard. You want to have your shooting guard, your small forward, your power forward, and your center. You want to have guys who are the big bodies that, they may not be the best athletes, or they may not separate the greatest, but their ball skills and the ability to play above the rim is important, right? But then you want guys that can complement them. That's a slasher, right? In terms of being able to run the slants, the drags, the in breakers, the route runners. But then you also need that 3-point shooter, right? That shooting guard that can take the top off of defense. So Clemson has to continue to target guys like a Braylon Staley, because he gives you the speed, he gives you the yak ability, he can be a slasher, right? And then he's athletic enough to, as a 6-foot guy, to play above the rim. So you want to have, as we see with, like I talked about in the first episode, that since I took over this pod earlier this week, Antonio Williams, the sophomore wide receiver, explosive, dynamic, run after the catch threat. You need those guys. It makes the quarterback's job easier, and then it complements your big body. So I really hope that they can find a way to, I think a lot of the recruiting sites believe that Clemson is the favorite for him. But again, all these out-of-state schools that are offering this kid. Clemson, you don't want to let an in-state kid in Aiken, South Carolina, 4-star that can really play at the wide receiver position, slip through your fingertips. Go get this kid, get him committed, get him signed and sealed and delivered so he can come in for the 2024 class and continue to strengthen this class. Because like I said, I believe they're ranked right now at 13 or 14, depending on the site that you look at. You want to get inside that top 10 sooner rather than later, and then continue to chip away and get yourself in that top 7 and really feel good about the 2024 recruiting class as it is coming up, as we get into the 2023 season. You want to continue to build. Dynasties can last if you continue to build and add more and more pieces to the puzzle. But guys, oh man, I appreciate y'all tapping in with me. You know what I always tell y'all, man. You are family. You are everydayers. Thank y'all so much for joining me on today. Tap in with me again tomorrow, guys. Listen, thank you for making Locked On Clemson podcast your daily podcast and your everyday podcast, right? Your first listen every single day. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it's available. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I'm talking draft prospects, college football, you name it, basketball, all of it. I talk everything, guys. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's DP_NFL. So go follow me, guys, and tap in with me, because I love to have fun, man, as always. So listen, that's Twitter. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow, guys, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Go Clemson.